So I'm being guided to record right now, so that's what I'm gonna do. Without going into a ton of detail, I will just say that I feel like I am being presently tested. And that's okay. Like, I feel like, so many things come to mind. Like, the universe, which is essentially just us, in my opinion, and what my honest belief is that it's not outside of us. It is us at our highest evolved state combined, all of us. Like, God's source is all of us as our highest selves combined in that consciousness. If we are as our highest selves and operating in that all at once, that would make a supreme being. And to me, that's what God is all of us operating on our highest timeline as our highest selves. Yeah. It's just a theory, not one that you have to accept or believe. Truth is subjective and, different to all of us, and that's okay. I feel like as long as we're practicing love and we're working on bettering ourselves and growth, then chances are you're on the right path. So no judgment if you don't necessarily follow what I'm saying, but I feel like I'm being tested. There's many things that are said in the spiritual community, one of which being, well, it's just an idea of walking in alignment with our actions, walking in alignment, or what am I trying to say? Sorry, you guys still have to forgive me sometimes when lots of thoughts are pouring into me. I stumble over words. When we're walking in alignment with our thoughts and our actions, so like when those two align, and how that is like where we should strive to be, where we're walking in alignment with our values, that our words reflect, our actions reflect our words, and vice versa. If you guys hear my cat in the background, forgive me, she's being ratchet at the moment. But yeah, striving to walk in alignment with our values, words and actions, all of that good stuff. And what that means completely, right? That takes many forms, I think. And one of that being, like, we're tested. We're tested to see if the things that we're saying, the advice we're giving to others, the things that we're, quote, preaching, the things that we're choosing to believe for ourselves, if we're really ready to represent that and portray that in our daily lives. And I feel like that's the type of test I'm undergoing currently, and I gotta tell y'all, I am determined to pass it. I've always been a competitive person, even as a child in sports, and I feel like that, this is a weird analogy, by the way, but this is how my mind works. I go all over the place. But I feel like that competitiveness, I used to be, they say that there's many ways that you can sort of transmute things to your benefit. Like if you go through a heartbreak, instead of spiraling into depression, you use that hurt and that whatever, quote, negative feelings that you're feeling, and you transmute that into determination. And, that's why a lot of times people say, like, you get that glow up. You take all of that pain and you turn it into something beautiful. You choose to uplift yourself, to empower yourself, to find yourself again. Yeah. So, in that, I feel like I'm being tested, and I am determined to pass that test. And I can't speak for everybody else and the things that motivate you to do what you believe. It's one thing to have a value, but, to practice that value can be tricky, because we still have a human nature and ego. And I realize that there's many sort of ideas of what ego is, and from what I'm understanding it to be so far, at least a portion of it, is our humanity, essentially. It's the part of ourself that, wants to be with the fuckery. It's the part of us that's like, I wish a bitch would. It's the part of us that wants to flip off somebody who swerves in front of us in traffic. It's the part of us that wants to, tell that coworker who's micromanaging us that they're not our boss. That's what ego is. Ego is jealousy. Ego is, wanting something your neighbor has, like, wanting to be in their spot, like feeling some type of way because they got something and you feel like you deserve it. We're constantly fighting against ego, but it's necessary. It's not often, I think, in society that what we're fighting against we actually need. But we need our ego. We do. It's what keeps us balanced. It's what keeps us in check. And so part of that ego, part of that humanity is doubt, is worry, is concern, is, oh my God, how the fuck is this going to work out? It's, my mind can't conceive what this outcome is going to be, or my mind can only conceive these outcomes, so that must mean there's only this many outcomes. It's just an example of how ego can sort of taunt us, in my opinion, and how I am currently being tested in that. Like I said, I won't go into specifics. I think it's important for us in our spiritual journey to use discernment with various things, many things, but the details aren't important. The lesson, though, is essentially, am I going to walk in alignment with what I believe to the best of my ability? And I can tell you it's not easy. It's not easy. I feel like it's, and this isn't an excuse, this is just me deliberating my humanity. Like, we are born and we have, I don't think we're born with doubts and worries and concerns, but we're taught and programmed these things along the way. And so at a certain point, it just feels like it's an inherent part of us. It's easier to worry. It's easier to, oh my God, how is this going to work out? Instead of, oh, it's going to work out. There's no need for me to worry. I toyed with this idea, I think a couple months ago in January, where I was really intrigued by the concept of overcoming fear and what that would look like if collectively we could all do that. Just one of those like moments of daydreaming, when we think about the world and the earth that we envision for our future. Part of that for me is wondering like what it would be like if we could all conquer fear. Now, fear is necessary. It is. Fear can keep us safe. Fear can slow us down enough to have those questions that we need to think about before we charge into battle, so to speak. Fear is necessary to a certain degree, but I'm specifically talking about the fear that's debilitating. The fear that cripples us, the fear that manifests exactly what we're afraid of. Now, I am believing that I am doing all right in this aspect right now. I am very aware of my ego's desire to lose my shit in the moment. Like I said, it's like after a certain point, I think in the spiritual journey, and I'm sure there's many people who can relate to this, but it's almost like you're viewing yourself in third person. It's like third person and first person at the same time. Like you can hop into yourself and then you're set apart from yourself, looking at your own actions as an observer. And it's like, what used to work for you in the past, what you've done your entire life. Now, regardless to if this has worked or not, you just know what you've done your entire life. It's familiar. It's your routine. It's a habit. It's a pattern, whatever. Now, though, you recognize that there is a new way, a better way, a way that you haven't always tried, a way that's intimidating and kind of scary because it is new, a way that is kind of sketchy because, have I really ever embraced the way? Have I ever really gone the route of fearlessness? And sure, to break it down into a simple metaphor, it's like having a fear of roller coasters, and then you get on the roller coaster and you ride it and you have a blast. So you conquered that fear, and then afterwards you're thinking, you're probably, hey, that wasn't so bad, that was fun. I'm not saying this is everybody, but you guys get what I'm trying to say. It's something as simple as that, or for an example, when you don't want to go to an outing, a party, whatever, you're really not feeling it, but you end up going out and you end up having the best time of your life that night. I feel like a lot of us have had that scenario happen where you, for all intents and purposes, was like, I'm going to bed. I don't want to be around folks, whatever. But you choose to pick yourself up, go out, get dressed, look nice, and you end up having a ball. That's happened to a lot of us. So it's like that with fear, in my opinion. If we can push past that to a greater degree, And I'm even thinking, I always think on grand scales as far as concepts go. Now, I'm not saying, like I said, first of all, I am not a medical professional. I am not a mental health professional. I am not a priest or rabbi. I am just one soul on their journey, and there's certain things that I'm guided to speak on. So my personal thoughts go to, if we, say that you get a negative health diagnosis. Well, if you can conquer the fear of that, would you be able to heal yourself? Because you have denied yourself the fear that can cause those things to grow, can cause those things to be exacerbated, etc., etc. Now, I'm not saying that just thought alone can cure you. I am, however, saying that I think that thought alone can positively affect you. I can't speak on these things in certainty, but I think part of the reason I'm cautious to speak on it is uncertainty is because I too still have some doubts. Our humanity, I think it can be difficult for us to stretch and break away from these patterns of behavior and thought that we have all literally just been programmed to believe. It is like walking. It's like breathing to us. Back when COVID hit, people were losing their minds. And, no disrespect to anybody who had family members who were ill and that was a real threat. I am not saying that, you shouldn't have been afraid or any of that. I am just saying that, that was a time when people were extremely fearful, and how, in my opinion, if you were able to separate yourself from that fear mindset, how that might have separated you from being as consumed in the mass hysteria of it all. I firmly believe when we create our own realities. Excuse my dog. Ayana, go lay down. Go lay down. Go lay down. Thank you. Yeah, go lay down. Go lay down. Anyway. Sorry guys. Animals. I love her, but she's about to start barking. I was trying to stop her from barking. What was I saying? Oh yeah, okay, so I believe we create our own realities, and part of the way of doing that is to separate ourselves from mass hysteria and fear. And so in that, another example could be, for me personally, I don't watch a lot of the news. I don't. Now, you can have your beliefs and your opinions on that. It's fine. That's your beliefs and your opinions. But for me, in my reality, I'm doing pretty good. I'm not weighed down. Well, let me not lie. There are days when it's still extremely heavy, of course, because we're all collected consciously in this, right? We are all affected by what is happening around the world, whether we want to admit to it or not. We are all connected in that. And so whether you're conscious or aware of feeling it, you are on some level, because we are all connected. We are all one in that sense. And I know that's hard to conceive, and it sounds like like the Matrix, like some woo-woo, whatever. But it's true. You don't have to believe in that, but I believe that it's true. So in that, I choose not to watch as much of the news because it tends to depress me. It tends to make it difficult for me to remain in the energy that I know I am trying to maintain. Not to say it has to be sunshine and flowers and happiness all the time. That's unrealistic for most of us, right? But I try to be extremely mindful, and for, my fellow empaths out there, those who are HSP, the energy you're around can affect you. And so it's as simple as being mindful of the movies you watch, the television you watch, the music you listen to. These things do and can affect our thought processes, our mental and emotional and spiritual state. And that's not to say it's gonna ruin you or anything, but I believe it does have an effect on us. And so I'm trying to be mindful, especially with the way the media portrays things nowadays. We all know. Well, if you don't know, I feel I feel like it's common knowledge that the media does not often portray the truth of things. It portrays a very one-sided version, and it's usually rooted in fear and concern and trauma. And rarely is it advertised as the truth of what's happening, as love. How many times do you watch the news and you feel uplifted? After watching a whole news broadcast, how often do you just want to skip off into the sunset? No, rarely, if ever. So I'm mindful of what I'm taking in. So I don't watch a lot of the news because I don't want to I need to be careful for myself how much fear I am allowing to possibly attach itself to me. Now, we can work on cleansing ourselves, protecting ourselves, absolutely. Still need to be mindful of what we're around energetically. That's just the truth of it. Now, ultimately, I do believe that if you don't believe it will affect you, that it won't. However, there is also still the fact that there are subconscious, unconscious things, beliefs, patternings within us that we may not be fully aware exist, and therefore, at that unconscious, subconscious level, we may still believe that something can affect us, whether you are conscious of that or not, and therefore, said thing will affect you, if that makes sense. But ultimately, I believe that if you can fully consciously be aware, and like on all levels, subconsciously, like every level that there is, I believe that if you can be aware and fully believe with your entire being as soul that you are safe from harm, that you are protected, that whatever it is that might be trying to oppose you will not have its effect on you. At least that's where I am striving to be. I've heard of people who are at that point. And that's beautiful. I wish that for all of us. I know that may not be what we all experience in this journey, but nonetheless, I still do hope that we can all experience that. That would be beautiful. Yeah. So like I said, I feel like I'm being tested, and I am determined to pass this, guys. I'll keep you posted, but I just wanted to stop by and remind you that, things are going to feel like obstacles. Things are going to feel like tragedies. Things are going to feel like loss. And the easy thing to do is to worry. The easy thing to do is to be scared. The easy thing to do is to lose sleep and doubt and sink into despair. And because it's the easy thing to do those things, it might be harder to think positively, to repeat those positive affirmations, to remind yourself that you're worthy and protected and safe and provided for, and that your needs are met, and that spirit has your back, and that, you're enough. Like, these reminders do take effort, more effort than I think it takes to worry, because that's what we've always done, some of us, and that's what's easiest. It's like, I've recently been a mentor to high school kids, and oftentimes when they were in an argument or whatever, or we're having a mediation between two parties that were arguing, we've often told them, or it's been brought up that, like, it takes more strength to walk away from something than it takes to react to it, to react negatively, to argue, to lash out, to pop off, to get active, as they call it. But it takes more energy to walk away, to be the bigger person, to forgive, to show compassion, to be mindful of your own ego's desires to react and to not react. It takes more strength. And so in that, it's similar to having trust and faith and believing instead of doubt and worry and fear. Now, I know there's that common phrase, oh, it's easier said than done. And a lot of times in my past, I will say that has been true. I'm very, very conscious of what I speak into my life. I'm not saying I'll catch everything, but I try to be as conscious as I can of it. And so for me to say it's easier said than done is sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy that I don't want to put out. I want to say that it is easy said and easy done until it is. Because there's no denying that we need growth in our journey. So I'm acknowledging where I am currently at, but I'm not limiting myself for where I want to be. So, in that, I'll leave you guys with that, and weigh in the comments if you'd like. How do you handle fear? What do you do to? Now, I'm talking about fear of any kind. This can be like a fear of heights. This can be fear of losing a loved one. Like there's no limit on it, but just fear in general. When you naturally feel inclined to doubt and to be worried and have anxiety over something, what are things that you do to try to curb that? Because I believe that we should all at least be trying. Not to say that there aren't those out there that have real, challenges in that area. And I'm not minimizing, if your mental health, can cause difficulties in that area. I'm not saying like this should be easy for anyone. I am just asking for those who have found ways to be mindful of this tendency to fear and who have done otherwise, and it's worked out for you. I want to hear those success stories in that field. So yeah, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thanks for rocking with me in this brief mini episode, and stay safe out there in these cosmic streets.